Good day, students! Are you excited with our topic for this day? Great! You're excited? Can you get our your last number 1 and 2 for quarter 2, week number 8? So our topic for this day is all about determine the truth values of propositions and illustrate the different forms of conditional propositions. Before we're going to start our lesson, everybody kindly read with me our objectives for this lesson. At the end of this video lesson, you are going to determine the truth values of the propositions and illustrate the forms of conditional proposition. Shall we start our discussion? Good day, students! Before we are going to dig deeper with your class, take a look with your class, let's have first our review for some terms that we are going to remember and that we are going to use later on with our discussions. For number 1, this symbol is read as not P or the negation of the proposition P, which is the inverse of the given proposition. For our number 2, this symbol is read as P and Q or the conjunction of the proposition P and Q. And now for our number 3, kindly familiarize our symbol, which is, it is read as if P then Q or the conditional of the propositions P and Q. Now for our last symbol, which is very important also, it is read as P if and only if Q or the biconditional of the propositions P and Q. To better understand our last, take a look with your last, let's have our discussion. How to construct truth tables. Based on our definitions here, combining propositions using connectives will result in the formation of compound propositions to determine whether these resulting propositions are true or false. A scheme for listing all possible truth values will be used. This is called the truth table. Now, I will give you an example to better understand what is really the content of your last. For our last number 1, let's have our example number 1. Let P and Q be a propositions, meaning to say, the P and the Q are different propositions. Now, we are going to construct a truth tables for the proposition. Take a look with our statement here. Not P and Q, that is our problem. So, we need to construct the truth tables out of this equation. Now, the solution. Note that there are two propositions, P and Q, involved in the compound propositions. Thus, the truth table will contain 4 rows. The first will construct the propositions P and Q from not P and Q, and that is our first table, which is this one. We have the propositions, the P, the Q, and we need to get the value or the answer for the P and Q. Now, for our propositions P and Q that is given, which is the true, the false, and the false. And for our propositions Q, that is true, false. So the 2 propositions are given. Now, take a look with our answer on how to get the P and Q. Now, if the 2 statement is true and true, you need to answer or follow the true answer. But if the true and false, if the statement is either the 2 of the statement has false, you need to answer false. And then false and true, because the other statement is false, you need to follow the false. But here comes the 4th statement, which is the false and the false. You need to answer the false. That is our answer for P and Q. So you need to remember the patterns or the answer of our propositions. Now, then we need to get another column because we need to construct a column or 4 columns in our table. For our last column, that would actually answer with our question, not P and Q. Therefore, you need to take a look with our answer, which is the P and Q. So your not P and Q will be based from your answer P and Q. You need to take take the negation of the proposition P and Q. We need to say the inverse of our answer. So the inverse of the true, that is false. The inverse of false, 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 that would be true, true, and true. So that is very easy to learn. I hope you can try with our discussions. Now let's move on to our example number 2. Okay, for example number 2, we have let P and Q be propositions. Now we are going to construct a truth table for the compound proposition. So we are going to read this one, P then Q, and P then Q, and Q then P. So that is very important on how to read our proposition. So you need to familiarize the terms and symbols a while ago during our review. Now, for our solution, that there are two propositions, the P and Q, which involve a compound proposition. Thus, the truth table will contain 4 rows. So that is very important for us to determine how many rows that we are going to prepare. Using the truth table for the definition of the conditional statements P then Q and Q then P, we add 2 more columns to indicate the answer of the value P then Q and Q then P. Now let's move on to our first answer or our first column. So we have the given, the 2 propositions. So you need to internalize that the 2 propositions are always given. That is proposition the P and the proposition Q. So we have this given, which is true, true, false, false. And this is the proposition Q, which is true, false, true, and false. Now, how to get or how to know that our proposition from P then Q is correct? If the 2 statements are true, your answer will be true. Okay? But if the statement of our proposition P is true and the proposition Q is false, you need to follow the proposition Q, which is the false. Okay? Now, for our third row, we have the proposition P is false and the proposition Q is true. You need to follow the proposition Q, which is the true. Take note, but if the 2 propositions, the P and the Q, are both false, of course, you need to take the negations of those 2 propositions with it, which is the true. Okay? So that is very easy. Now, let's take a look with our another column. This is the inverse of the third column, which is P then Q, because this would be Q then P. So you need to interchange our position. A while ago, our third column, we start here from here. Now with our fourth columns, that would be here from here. Okay? So now let's take a look with our true and true. You need to follow the P, which is the true. Okay, right? For our false and true, you need to follow the P, which is the true, because we interchange. Next, that would be false and true. You need to follow the P, which is the false. But if it is false and false, you need to take the negations of the 2 statements or the 2 propositions, which is the true. Okay, now we have already completed our column. Let's move on to our last proposition to be answered by our 5th rows. That would be P then Q and Q then P. So we will base our propositions with these 2 columns. If this is true and true, the answer would be true. Okay, so are you still there? For our false and true, you need to follow the P, which is the false. Or either of the 2 statements, if there is false, you need to follow the false. If it is true and false, if other statement is false, that would be false, and true, that is the true. So actually, this is very easy. What you're going to do is just practice how to construct a truth table, and of course, how you are going to familiarize the symbols in these truth tables. Okay? So now, great job, students. We are done with our last number 1. Now let's move on to our last number 2, which is the forms of conditional propositions. So based on our definition, conditional propositions have different forms, namely the converse, the inverse, and the contracticity. So here are the following signs and symbols that we're going to take a look and to familiarize because this is very important. For our converse, Q, then P. For the symbol for our inverse, that is not P, then not Q. And for our contrapositive, this is not Q, then not P. Now, to better understand with our converse, inverse, and the contrapositive, take a look with your last with our example number 1. Given the conditional proposition below, state its converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive in a sentence form. So we have our sentence here. If you are honest, then you deserve a thumbs up. Now, in our solution, if you are honest, that is our statement number 1, which is our P, then you deserve a thumbs up, that is our proposition number 2, which is our Q. Now, here is our solution. First, identify the hypothesis and the conclusion. Since the proposition is written in its standard form, it is easily seen that the hypothesis and the conclusion are as follows. For our hypothesis, of course, you are honest, which is our proposition P. Conclusion is you deserve a thumbs up, which is our proposition Q. Following now the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive in the given definition above, we will have this following answer. Now for our converse, which is the P, then the Q, then P, of course, you need to start your statement in the Q proposition, which is our Q is our conclusion, which is you deserve a thumbs up. Therefore, the converse is, if you deserve a thumbs up, this is our Q, then you are honest, which is our P. This is Q, then P. Okay? So that is very easy to familiarize the converse. For our inverse, that is not P, then not Q. Therefore, you need to take the negation of our P and Q. Take the negation of the first statement, you are honest. That is very important. The negation is, you need to interchange it with the negative statement, which is not. And then not Q, which is also the negative of our proposition Q. So this is our inverse. Take a look. If you are not honest, this is the negation, then you do not deserve the thumbs up. So this is the negations of the two statements, which is the P and Q. Now for our contrapositive, this is very easy because if you do not, this is our symbol, not Q, then not P. You need to interchange the two proposition. Not Q, which is, this is our, you deserve a thumbs up. For our proposition P, this is you are honest. Take the negation of the statement. So we will start from our statement, which is the Q, which is you deserve a thumbs up. You deserve a thumbs up, but we have a symbol na Q, therefore we need to take the negation of our statement Q, which is you, if you do not deserve the thumbs up, then you do not, or you are not honest. So this is very easy for you to familiarize the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive with the following symbols. Okay? Now, for your activities, you are going to answer our activities, the 1 and the 2, which is number 1, determine the truth values of the proposition given this table. And for our number 2, given the conditional proposition, we are going to identify the hypothesis and the conclusion state in the converse, inverse, and contrapositive in the sentence form. Like for instance, we have number 2, if you live in the Philippines, then you live in Sarangani province. You need to take, or you need to get the hypothesis, the conclusion, the converse, the inverse, in the contrapositive. Of course, very easy for you to answer that one if you familiarize the given signs and symbols that you can follow on how to determine the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive. Okay? So now let's move on to the last part of our discussion, which is assignment. But take note that your activities will be sent later with our personal thesis, and I am going to check this one, and I am going to update if you got the correct answer. Okay? So now let's move on to our assignment, which is determine the truth values of the proposition. So we have this table. Of course, you can search this one on YouTube or on Google, or you can take a look with our example because this is very important assignment because it is related to our next topic. So I hope students you learned something with our discussions for this day, and see you soon and very soon for our final answer with our activities. Thank you so much, and God